Well, good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us here at the intersection of faith and culture. This is the Meeting House on Faith Radio, and it is great to welcome from Southern California, from the San Diego area, some individuals that have been involved in using technology to do ministry, affiliated with the Rock Church in San Diego, California. May you remember my conversation. It was at National Religious Broadcasters last year with the senior pastor of that church, Miles McPherson. And today we have the founder of the Geeks Computer Services Ministry, and his name is Jack Costner. We also have Nick Warner and his two sons, Ryley and Mason. And Nick and his family have been involved, along with his wife, their mom, Stephanie, in making 3D face shields for hospital workers around the area. And so this is an inspiring story. And when I found out about it, I said, hey, I have got to get you on. And so we're not only having audio today, but we also have some Zoom video running. And so it is great to have the opportunity to talk with everyone today from Southern California. Nick Warner, Mason and Ryley, as well as Jack Costner. Hey, welcome aboard to the Meeting House here on Faith Radio in L.A., Lower Alabama. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, Nick, let me ask you the first question. Tell me about how really you began to do this whole, and I will call it a ministry to the healthcare workers in your area with respect to the face shields.
Well, we kind of started it. We have three 3D printers. We had three 3D printers to start with. We have a friend that works in healthcare, and we just kind of saw how it was affecting folks, and our printers had kind of just been sitting idle. So we had seen a YouTuber that we watch had been printing these for his area up in Washington, and so we just started printing them off, and then just donated them over to a friend, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. Somebody, heard that we were doing it, and then donated some money, and then somebody else donated some more, and then started seeing that there was a real big need for it, apparently. So then it just started from there and just kind of take on its own lead. And then Jack was telling him about it, and then he asked how he could help, and then this is where we're at right now.
Well, I'm going to ask you the question and give you the opportunity to kind of give us a little bit of, you think about, I know there's a website called How Things Work or How Stuff Works. And so I'm curious, as far as the whole area of 3D technology, how are these face shields actually produced? Give us a little bit of an insight into how you do this.
You want to explain it, Rick? No, okay.
All right.
So,
all right. Mason has declined here.
We have the machines. They're. Well, we have a few of them in the background, but essentially they take a spool of plastic, looks like spaghetti. It gets heated up through a nozzle, and then you send some files through it. Can you grab a little bit? So you send, you create some files, and then you upload it to the 3D printer, and then it prints out, it heats up this plastic spool.
Okay.
And then it gets fed through what's called a hot end, and then just melts it, and then you end up with, you grab the face shields up there, bud?
All right. We have all sorts of tools and materials that are used in the process of making these shields.
Yeah, so it takes roughly 2 hours, and then we get two. After we have different colors of filament and stuff like that. So after about 2 hours, we get two face shields. And then after they're done, we just kind of pop them off. And then mom takes them, counts them, and then gets them all ready to be distributed out to different folks. I know we probably made it sound simplified, but it's kind of hard without showing
Right.
the machines going. But it's essentially starts off with a plastic spool of spaghetti looking stuff, and then you end up with whatever you tell the printer to print, essentially.
It's called filament.
Filament, there you go.
It is called filament, and that was Ryley.
Mason.
That was That was Mason. Okay. Okay. And Ryley is in the back and was actually giving a little bit of a demonstration back there. So, guys, let me ask both of you, Mason and Ryley. Let's go with Mason first. Tell me just a bit about what has been so cool about this overall process of making the face shields.
Why it's
Yeah, so you can hear you.
to me is because we get to help the world to make the coronavirus stop and help people that we might not know stop with the coronavirus if they have it, and also help the nurses that we don't know. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like learning about it more and helping our state mostly. And it's really fun to me.
That's awesome. Well, you are listening to Meeting House here on Faith Radio, and joining me from San Diego, we have Nick Warner, who is involved in these 3D face shields. It's a family project, his wife Stephanie, as well as their sons Mason and Ryley. And we also have Jack Costner, who is the founder of what's been going on for about a dozen years out at the Rock Church in San Diego, the Jesus Geeks ministry. It is a technological ministry, the Jesus Geeks Computer Services Ministry. So, Jack, tell me about how that ministry actually got started.
Yeah, it was in 2008, and I was a new Christian. I was born again in 2005. And I just happened to help a coworker with their computer at their home. And as I was helping him with his computer, I felt that I was supposed to share the gospel with the guy. So I did it the best way I knew how. And after that, his computer was fine and everything seemed okay. The next week, he came up to me and he wanted to thank me for what I did the other day. And I was like, yeah, no problem. If you have any other computer issue, just let me know. And he said, yeah, for that, but also for telling me about Jesus, because I think I found a church just last weekend, and I think I'm going back. And that kind of blew my mind, because I was like, okay, so God was able to use technology to help save somebody and give them a new life. So that's where the idea was born. And so me and my wife took it to the Rock Church, and they had an outreach team there, and that's kind of how it all began.
So, Nick, how is it that you got involved in the Jesus Geeks ministry?
Jack and I were coworkers up until recently. We have a lot of the same interests. We have gone to some cybersecurity conferences, and he's told me about his ministry. We live in two different areas of San Diego, so we go to two different churches. But so I was looking to see how we can not really make this thing grow, because that wasn't our intentions in the beginning. We were just trying to sustain without really financially affecting us, because it does take quite a lot. So we were just kind of reaching out different areas. I talked about it all the time at work. And then Jack, he's like, hey, let me see how I can help you. How can the Jesus Geeks help? And how could I walk alongside you with this? How could we, tackle this together? And that's kind of where we're at right now. And it's just kind of been incredible to see.
Well, Jack, let's talk about the face shields. Nick was sharing earlier about him bringing that idea to you. So share about your involvement in this very, very much needed project.
Yeah, Bob. Nick told me about it, what him and his family was doing with the 3D printers, and helping some of their friends out with it. And we kind of, as we were talking about it, we kind of both realized this was something God was using them for. So I asked him, hey, do you guys want this project to be part of the Jesus Geeks ministry, so God can continue to use this technology for reaching out to people and helping the healthcare workers out. And so he talked about it with his wife, and he said, yeah, let's do this. Let's see where God's going to take this.
Well, you are listening to Meeting House here on Faith Radio. Joining me from the San Diego area, we have members of the Warner family, including Nick, as well as his sons, Mason and Ryley. His wife, Stephanie, is involved at North Coast Church on staff there, in charge of community outreach, North Coast Church in Fallbrook. And Jack is the founder of the Jesus Geeks ministry out of the Rock Church in San Diego. And so let's talk, Nick, about the fruit. Tell me how many of these face shields that you have actually made and distributed.
We're about 1,400 made, and then 1,150 to 1,200 distributed, I think is what my wife corrected me on. So it's been kind of crazy, really, just to see the need. It's just started off at something that we thought was, we have some extra filament. We're going to just print it out for some friends. And then it's just kind of taken on its own head. We obviously see that there's a need for it, and we're just going to provide until it's not needed, I guess.
Outstanding. So what sort of response have you received from healthcare workers, those in the healthcare field in that area?
A lot of them are really grateful for it. We don't get feedback from every single one of them, but with one of the pastors at our church, he it's kind of crazy how we set it up. So we'll print them out at home, then we'll set them up in a tub, set it on top of our driveway, and then he will at random days just come by, pick them up out of the tub, just to kind of keep everybody away from each other. Then he takes them, gets them all set up, and then distributes to the hospitals that need them. But he gets a lot of feedback, a lot of requests from it, and we just give them out as needed. We don't have any. We don't hoard them back and just keep them to ourselves or for whoever we specifically think needs them. We just have them for whenever they're ready and needed. And then right now going into it, it seems like they're going to be even more necessary going into May, just seeing how much busier the hospitals are getting and stuff like that.
Yeah. So if both of you actually, Nick and Jack, could kind of give us an idea, how are things in your area, in the San Diego area, with respect to the COVID-19 crisis? Or Nick?
Yeah. One of the areas, one of our friends, the friend that we originally started this project for, she said that it's getting even more busy. It's just getting overwhelming. The numbers have pretty much tripled in the area. And then San Diego, I live in North San Diego, and then, Jack's from South San Diego, but where I work down in Southern San Diego. So I hear the numbers there too are getting pretty nuts. I don't know if Jack has any more insight on down in that area.
Yeah, I do have a relative that's actually a nurse in a hospital in South San Diego, and Nick was able to print a few face shields for them as well. And they told me that it's pretty hard, especially when they have kids. So she actually has to stay away from her own kids when they're at home, and the kids actually, they don't really understand what's going on and why mom has to stay away. So it's definitely something that's needed.
Well, Jack, as we begin to wrap up, you shared earlier about the background of this Jesus Geeks ministry that you launched about 12 years ago. So this obviously, the face shield printing with the 3D printer, this is something that is greatly needed in this time. Tell me about how you're seeing God at work, not only through this ministry, but also through your ministry as a whole during this very challenging time.
God always surprises me with how he uses technology in a way to reach out, and just watching this kind of happen is amazing. It's me and Nick talked about it, and we're like, this is nothing that we could come up with ourselves. It's something we just kind of have to wait on God and keep our hands open to see how he's going to use what we know, what the skills that we have in order to help people. And the Warners were a perfect example of that. He had no idea what was going to happen. He didn't know. Nobody knew the COVID situation was going to occur, and somehow God was able to prep them and use their skills to be able to help out. And yeah, I see that also as an encouragement that anybody out there that believes they can't serve God in the skills and talents that they have is, this is an encouragement that you can, it's as long as you keep your hands open and continue to seek what God wants to use you for. It's definitely possible, and it can make a huge impact.
Well, some great words for us today, and a couple of points that I want to make in closing. Jack, as you were just sharing, the ability for people to be used of God, to use the gifts and talents that he has given, the skills that perhaps he has given to people to be used of him. That's so powerful. Also, something that the Warners demonstrate is the opportunity, even during this time of families having a lot of time to spend together, of families being used in ministry together and doing this all together. And I'd like to ask the two sons, Mason and Ryley, to share with us what has been the coolest thing about being involved in this and working with your mom and dad in doing it.
Well, one, because we get to learn more about the 3D printers, and we get to spend time as a family, and that we get to help the people in our state that need help with the coronavirus, and people that are helping with the coronavirus. And I hope it stops soon, and it's a very bad thing that this happened. So,
well, you guys are playing a very, very special role. Do you have anything to add?
What's been your favorite part?
My favorite part is just helping and 3D printing as a family.
Well, that is very awesome. And in closing, Nick, anything you would have to say to encourage families to look for ways to get involved in doing very valuable things for the kingdom during this very unusual time?
For me, I'd say, I mean, you may not know that you have a skill, or that something you may do as a hobby can change lives or help in crisis. But if you just kind of sit back and look around and just kind of, let God guide you and just give it up to him to see how he can use you, it's kind of amazing to see where something so small and such a small idea can go and just exponentially grow further than, any plan you had. It's just, I didn't think that just what we do for fun as a hobby, as a family, would turn into potentially saving somebody's life. It's just kind of mind-blowing, really.
Well, Jack, as we conclude, how can people, maybe if there's a method of contact or a place people can go online to find out more information about this particular project as well as your ministry overall, how can they do that?
You can go to the JesusGeeks.org. The JesusGeeks.org has, we're trying to post updates on that site as the Warners notify us. Also, our Facebook page is up there as well. So you can search for the Jesus Geeks on Facebook, and you can keep in contact with us there, and also get updates as well, or donate towards the cause if you feel like donating for the Warners to create more face shields.
Outstanding. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you on the program today, and just to give a great example and inspiration to people and families to consider how God might use them during this time of coronavirus, during this crisis. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today here on the Meeting House on Faith Radio.
Thanks, Bob.
thanks, Bob.
God bless.